Think everybody who's starting off in some sort of industry should have a mentor.
Yeah.
Someone who's been in it a while who you feel does it the right way. I don't successfully do my next one for another 5 months. Stress, anger, frustration, self-pity
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
right? A little bit of victim's mentality there.
Of course, yeah. In this episode of Kicking the Junk, I have an awesome discussion with Luigi Mastrobuono. Luigi is a realtor in Kelowna, and he shares about his struggles of becoming a realtor and how difficult cracking into this market actually is. He shares his successes and some of his lows, and we really learn about the value of mentorship, humility, and intentions. I'm really excited to share this one with you because I learned a lot from this. And there's a lot that anybody in any industry, whether you're starting a new business, whether you're in it right now, or you're just wanting to learn something new, can pull from. So without further delay, we'll jump right into this podcast.
Ready to give it a shot?
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I know I've been watching it for the last little bit, and
Cool.
you're doing some interesting stuff, and just hoping to help get you to that next
I appreciate that, man. And I've been able to watch some of your career through the real estate, and we knew each other from gym, knew each other for a while there,
Yeah.
worked together. You're always excelling, which is so cool to see. And I saw some of that transition from you into real estate, and that can be a scary jump because it's a totally new field, a little more personal, bigger transactions, and I've just kind of been watching that. Now you have your own company now, which is super cool. So maybe let's dive into first just why did you get the company started and how, what that process looked like.
So getting started into real estate overall, I was working in the fitness industry. We were at obviously the same outfit there for a while. And I just sort of realized after a few years, I wanted something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I always fought sales, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't want to get into sales.
Yeah.
And super ironic.
Yeah.
Because I have just such not an addictive personality, but I just get so focused that it kind of consumes me. I'm like, I need to figure out a balance in my life, which I always kind of struggled with, especially, having a girlfriend at the time and everything. I'm like, I don't want my work to just be my life and then I'm miserable in my personal life, right?
Yeah.
So, working for a corporation, it's just, I'm a small town kid and I'm very much about one-on-one relationships, and I feel like just working at a corporation, you didn't really get to, do what you wanted to do with people because you're constricted to whatever the company wanted you to do, right?
Yes.
So after a few years of that and working for its head office and coming back, I knew I wasn't happy and I wanted to make a change. I didn't know what that change was going to be.
Yeah.
So I got reconnected with a guy who I knew through the basketball world who was a member at the gym. And he would always ride the recumbent bike. And we would, chat about basketball, whatever. Every day I would see him, just go say hi. And that was just kind of me with members, and probably led to my sales success there. It was just, while people were focused on phoning people and doing everything, I was actually talking to people out
Real
on the floor.
connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had made the suggestion, oh, you should get into real estate. And I looked at him and I'm like, not a chance. I do not want to, right? There's that stigma and that, for people who don't really know the industry, there's a stigma of being very salesy and being slick, and I'm like, that's just not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then as certain things changed, and time passed, some changes came from up above, and I just didn't necessarily agree with them. And, talking to my girlfriend, I was like, I need to, at the time, she's my wife now. And at the time, she's like, you know what, just go for it.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, it's not for you.
Shoot the shot.
Yeah. So I literally left work, hopped in my car, drove to this guy's office. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sign up. Just hoped he was there. I didn't talk to him. And just like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up for the course. I'm going to work for you.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think everybody who's starting off in some sort of industry should have a mentor.
Yeah.
Someone who's been in it a while, who you feel does it the right way.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, that was him again, because I knew him outside of real estate.
Yeah.
And he
saw
was
the kind of person he was.
Yeah, and for me, like I'm very much a family man, always kind of have been. And I looked at him, I'm like, okay, you've been in the industry for 25 years at the time.
Yeah.
You're community involved.
Yeah.
You're still married, which is a big one for me.
Totally.
Not that I have anything against divorce or anything like that, but just not what I wanted for myself.
Totally.
And you have 4 kids and you coach basketball. Yeah. And you're successful with your work. Like, you figured out a formula. Yeah. Something that works.
Yeah.
And so I drove there. I'm like, I'm only going to work for you. And he's like, I'm not taking anyone on right now.
Okay.
And I kind of just sat there and I was like, no, this is going to happen. We're going to do this.
Really?
I refused. Like, yeah, he's like, I've got to go to this meeting here shortly. And I would need to talk to Charlene, who was working with him at the time. He had a couple of associates. I'm like, okay, you can go to the meeting, but I'm going to be here when you get back.
No way, I love that.
And if you don't come back, I'm just going to come back tomorrow. So, or we can just figure this out right now.
So you're just shooting your shots.
So he just looked at me. He's like, you know what? I respect that and I appreciate that. And so let's figure out what we got to do to get you and blah, blah, blah. So, push came to shove and we did it. And I headed in my 2 weeks notice, not that long after. And I started bartending at a golf course and doing weddings and stuff there just to sustain myself while I was getting licensed.
Yeah, totally. That's a bit of a process, right?
Yeah. So got into it, and then fast forward a few years later, the guy that I was working with took a step back and then has retired altogether now as of July of this year. And I took the reins a couple of years ago and then just kind of put my spin on it. And it's been good ever since. Yeah. Wow. Well, the whole way through, but it's been going well. So
I love that determination. And like you said, it was, I think a lot of people are afraid to jump. Yeah. A lot of people are afraid to shoot the shot. Yeah. And it was great. It was amazing that you had a partner, your wife now, that was like, hey, shoot the shot. Yeah. Take it and commit. And you kept, and you were that persistent. Because a lot of times, people, you hear a little bit of hesitance. Oh, even something as simple as, traffic's bad, and I'm not going to go. Yeah. You're like, no, I'm here. I'm sitting down, and you found somebody that modeled what you thought, what you felt, and what aligned with you, and what success looked like.
Yeah, and it took a while to think about, but then I was just like, if I'm going to do this, it's got to be 2 feet in. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I don't want to be one of those people who, okay, I'm going to do this, but I want a safety net. Because if I do that, then 100% of my energy and effort and focus isn't with it. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's just a greater chance of failure if you're not just going to commit all the way, right? So, it, as we'll discuss here, it didn't go super smoothly off the start. Okay. But I feel like if I hadn't done it all the way, I might not still be doing what I'm doing, right? So, but it was scary, at first, right?
Totally, and that's something that I think people need to recognize is like, it's gonna be scary. Yeah. And not to mention, our brains are designed to fear new. Yeah. Right? Our animal brains are designed to fear the new things because 1,000 years ago it kept us safe. Yeah. Well, now we're safe, but it's like, oh my God, a new career. Oh my God, it's scary. It's like,
there's just so many what if questions.
Sure. Yeah.
And for me personally, what if I fail at this? Yeah. What if this consumes me, which is one of my fears, right? And it affects other aspects of my life. Yeah. What if, other things happen and I'm not able to do it to the level that I want to do it, that I hold myself accountable to. Mm-hmm. Situations change all the time. What if I'm not able to roll with the punches? What if I'm not, it was one of those things. And, just knowing that I wanted to work with myself or work with somebody for myself, because I asked myself the question, why would somebody use me? There's, at that time, 1,000 of us in the central Okanagan. Yes. Why me? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I work hard. Well, so do a lot of people. Sure. Yeah. I couldn't answer that question. Right. So that's when I was like, okay, I need someone. That I can have in my back pocket. Because what's the biggest question people are going to have. Why would I work with you? You're new, you're green, you don't know a whole lot.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the real estate course, sorry, it is what it is. It doesn't teach you anything.
No, it gives you a stamp of approval.
And a lot of new agents, again, not disparaging anyone, but as a new agent, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You just don't.
You just can't get that real life experience.
Yeah. So I'll go till the cows come home, but I need a safety net for people to feel comfortable. So when I started working with Dino, I haven't been in the industry that long, but I work with a guy on my team that's been doing it for 25 years at a very high level.
So it's that kind of...
A lot of people know who he is because he's been so prevalent in the sports and the community and everything like that for so long.
Totally.
Okay, you don't, but I have Dino just in case any questions come up. There's certain situations that arise that you don't know the answer to. I've got someone in my back pocket. Client is protected.
Totally. And I love that you recognize that your vulnerability and your weakness right away, because a lot of people don't want to accept that weakness and don't want to even address it. Oh, no, I'm fine. I can do this and I can do this. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, as soon as you recognize that was a weakness, you made it your strength. Right? And it was like, oh my God. And with just something as simple as, like I said, partnering and going to someone that has that experience and being like, hey, I want to work for you, right? And getting that mentorship. So that's really cool that you did that.
The biggest thing is we all have shortcomings, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
We're not all perfect. We're not, this isn't a video game where you just
max
out all of your stats
no
and everything like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Like this is one of those things where you have to be willing to suck up your pride.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better term, saying, you know what, this is a big flaw in my game, for lack of a better term.
Totally.
So how do I address that? How do I get ahead of it?
Yeah.
Before it inevitably comes up.
Yeah.
So that I'm prepared for it and I can overcome that when the situation arises.
I love that.
And so it's just one of those things where like, you know what? It is what it is. I got to suck up my pride.
Yeah.
I need help. And it's okay to say, I may not be good at this, or this may not be my strength, and this is somebody else's, and we all need help in life, regardless of what it is. So
totally. And you know what? So I want to kind of pause on that for a bit because there's so much there I can unpack, which is good. But you kind of mentioned it before, and I want to dive into it. I mean, the whole point of the podcast is to talk about the really low times.
Yeah.
The idea is when you're coming out with something hot and heavy, you're like, this is it, or especially in the business world. And you get just sideswiped. You get just kicked straight in the junk.
Yep.
So, I know you have a moment there and you already got it in your head. So what was that moment? I mean, it sounds like it was at the beginning. Maybe let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what was that moment? What'd you go through and how'd it feel? And what'd you learn?
Yeah, real estate's an interesting industry and people don't know unless you work in it, right?
Yeah.
There's this social media perception of I show homes and selling sunset and drive my Lambo or Audi or whatever. That's not what it is. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Yeah.
Sorry to shatter that glass for some people. So I knew, it was going to take me a while to get my license. So in the meantime, because I was successful at our fitness club that we were working at before, I started my networking just to get myself prepped and to have people that I could potentially work with off the hop.
Yeah.
So that bought me about 6 months of telling people this is what I'm doing. So I got off, I did my first real estate transaction within the first, I think it was 3 weeks of being licensed.
So
I'm like, all right. Top of the world.
This is it.
This is gonna go amazing.
Easy, done.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of expenses to real estate just to be a realtor, right? So you pay for your course, you pay for the license.
Yeah.
You have to pay a monthly desk fee to your brokerage. You have to pay real estate board fees every month. Like there's an accrued monthly expense.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether you're making money or not.
Yeah.
And I'm a younger guy at that time. I think I was 27 or 28.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to budget X amount. I'm going to do this. And my wife is a financial planner. So we kind of sat down. I'm like, okay, what should I anticipate?
Yeah. It's a great ally.
And so set that aside. Do my first deal 3 weeks. This is going to go great.
Yep.
And then a month goes by. Nothing.
Yeah.
And then think I have my next real estate transaction, and it collapses due to something outside of my control.
Yeah.
And then the next one collapses because of something out of my control.
Oh, no.
And then the next one, and then the next one. So within the span of, I do my first transaction in my first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't successfully do my next one for another 5 months.
Oh my God.
In between, I'm working my tail off.
Yeah.
And trying to help my clients, but they're collapsing due to, let's say, somebody forgot to pay their property taxes that I don't know about, because that's not a question that comes up.
Yes.
And you don't find out until it's too late.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I got to sit on the sidelines, got to pay this off. Or another instance was the house that my clients were trying to buy.
Yeah.
It was an illegal grow up that wasn't disclosed to us.
Right. Okay.
So that goes down. Another one, we found out there was something structurally wrong with the house. So that one goes down.
So these things are out of your control.
It is one thing after another. While I'm out there working 10 hours a day, hustling, trying to meet people, showing up, just making ends meet, right? Because in your first year of real estate, you're trying to break even.
Yes.
Really. And I'm like, I'm doing what I can, and I'm failing.
Right.
And in the meantime, I'm accruing this debt as a result, and whether I'm doing it or not, that bill's coming.
Yeah.
And I'm only 28, 27, 28, and, you don't have that much money saved at that time, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got rent, mortgage to pay, all these other life expenses, and you have kind of like a holy you-know-what moment.
Yeah.
Where you start to question yourself.
Totally.
Was this the right decision?
Yeah.
Was this...
The doubt.
Can I do this? I got to find another job. I'm going to quit. I'm going to do all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And did I get in too deep? And you just, like, for me, again, because I'm such a focused person, I just started internally spiraling.
Right.
I didn't let it come out, but I would just sit there, and my wife said, you just seem tense.
Yeah.
You seem... And I was like, I just need to be on my own for a bit. I need to be on my own for a bit, which kind of digs the hole deeper.
Yeah. She's there to support you, and she wants to hear what's going on. So what kind of emotions then? Like, because you said you felt like you're wrong. Let's talk about a couple. Let's touch on that for a bit. It's ugly, but what are some of the emotions that came up during that low?
Stress, anger, frustration... self-pity a little bit, right? A little bit of victim's mentality there.
Of course, yeah.
And just, a little bit of anxiety, like all those things where you just start going down a hole.
Yeah.
And it took a while to get out of, to be honest with you.
That's the thing, is like, that's some like real life shit.
Yeah.
Like it's, and because you're not the only real estate agent out there, like we mentioned.
Yep.
And how many other people out there come out the gate hot and ready to go and have had this, right? Not to mention that's just real estate. What about being a trainer, or you're starting your own business or doing this? It's like these things will come. So I think to recognize that and be like, hey, like this is normal. Like this is the normal, or ideally you don't want it, but it can happen.
Yeah.
So being ready for it. So what were some strategies and things you did to move through this?
There was a lot of up and downs during it. The biggest one, like, I started leaning on the guy that I ended up working with, right?
Totally. Having that mentorship. Right?
And it's tough because trying to maintain those emotional up and downs.
Yeah.
And not wearing it on your sleeves and having it affect other people was something that I was really trying to focus on, because it was something that I struggled with when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah.
And, looking back on it now, Dino laughs and everything, because I was like, I would have that conversation like, I think I gotta quit. I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it. It's I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so you can have all the external help you want, and it helps talking to people and just trying to brainstorm, figuring things out. But I'm always of the opinion that if you're ever going to make any change in life, whether it's work or it's personal, it has to come from within.
Yes.
Right? Like it's one of those things where you have to make the decision and again commit to it 2 feet in, or you're not going to be successful at it. And you know, whether it's people in addictions recovery or anything like that, until you shift your mindset.
Okay. Yeah.
If you can fix it, it's a Band-Aid fix.
Yeah.
Until you kind of get to that point.
Right.
So
what was your mindset shift then? Because that's such a big thing and you know, this is stuff I'm learning and constantly growing and talking about.
Yeah.
Is that your mindset will control all of that. A great example is if you have a great transaction, but if you're still angry, depressed, and stressed, you're not gonna feel good when you make that big transaction. So what was the mindset shift that you had to have?
I've always been big into basketball. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And so I started, this is going to sound so corny and cheesy, but just listening to like these great basketball players talk about their failures and successes. And again, Michael Jordan has one of the best quotes, I think, out there. You know, in order to succeed, first you must fail. Yeah. And I just kind of was like, you know what, this is me failing right now. Yeah. So let me step back and just kind of have an overview of everything what's going on. Yeah. So one of the first things that I told myself, okay, what do you think is going to be the solution to this problem? And I realized that the more I was digging myself, I was just trying to control too much. Yes. And for me, it was okay, you don't have power over this. You don't have power over this. You can only control what you can control. Yeah. And if you do the steps that you can control, that domino will fall and things will turn around. Yeah. So for me, it was just, be patient with yourself, be patient with situations, continue to learn things, you know, again, trying to get out ahead of these potential obstacles. And then when the situation arises, you can deal with it at the time. So through talking to myself, I'm not going to quit. Yeah. I am not going to look for a safety net just to make ends meet right now, just because I need that. 'Cause if I do that, it's going to take longer for this other side of the coin to flip. Yeah. This is not why I jumped into this in the first place. Yeah. So I just got to ride out the storm. Yeah. And again, just focus on the little activity things. Okay. Right? So like
so what were some of them? Yeah.
Focus on the micro and the macro will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, something I always tell my kids, and to be honest, this is why I want to do this podcast too, is because it's like, you know, like you said, Michael Jordan, you know, you have to have failure first and success, and like realizing, helping kids and people realize like that failure is normal, and that's your opportunity to learn. Yeah. So my question then is, like you said, you had all these little things in place. You start doing these little things. For me, I always tell kids, especially when I'm coaching football, is it's your attitude and effort. Yep. Those are 2 things you can control always, every time. So if you go 100% in for those 2, the results will happen. Yep. One way or another. Yeah. So what were some things that you started to do then? Some daily things, little things.
First thing was attitude and mentality, for sure. Yeah. Right? When I felt like something maybe was starting to go the direction that I didn't want it to. Yeah. Don't have that victim's mentality. Yeah. Don't bury yourself. Yeah. Okay. That's so good. I can let it go down this road, but what's something that I can do to stop it from going down this road? Yeah. Again, focusing on the little activities. What are my strengths? Okay. Yeah. Again, I've had the same group of friends that I've had since I was 11, 12 years old. Yeah. That's 23 years now.
That's a lot, yeah.
And none of them live here. We're all across the country now. I'm a small town kid. I'm like, okay, genuine relationships. Yes. Talking to people. Yes. Right? I've always had a core group of friends and people that I genuinely care about. Why do people work with me? It's that one-on-one care, treating it as if it's my own thing, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to let them down because your reputation is everything. Yeah. And you need to stop caring about the transactions, care about the relationship, get back to the basics. Yeah. So just meeting people, chatting with them, talking about okay, here's what we're looking for. Here's this, here's this, here's this. I think this is kind of the best solution for you based on what you're anticipating or what you're wanting for yourself. Yeah. So changing the mentality, changing the attitude, getting back to step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rather than trying to jump straight to step 5.
Yeah.
And eventually it turned around. Like I said, it took 5 months and
some big mistakes,
a few failures. Yeah. It just, again, you know what? Accepting failures, you know, I can only control what I can control. And if I fail because of an external influence.
Not mistakes. Yeah.
But something that's not out of my control. Well, sometimes that's life and you just got to eat it and move forward.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually things will turn around. And then my next 6 months, I had a much better time.
Yeah.
And a much more successful experience in my business that it eventually just grew. Like it didn't necessarily falter from there. And I knew that, you know, I taught myself that ups and downs in the market and ups and downs in the business are going to happen. Yeah. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Be prepared for when those times come and get back to the basics and focus on the little things.
Totally.
Right? Reaching out to people, not because you want something.
Yeah.
But because, hey,
I actually genuinely
I saw this thinking about you. How are you doing? How's your family?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? How's everything going for you? Are you still doing this? Are you still doing this?
Yeah.
And, you know, not everything has to be about work and business. Not everything has to be about that. Sometimes it's nice to just take that step back, and eventually it'll result in what you want it to result in down the line. Right?
Totally. So, and you know, it's interesting you said that, because that's something I always try to teach people is where's your intention first? Because people, that comes through. We're energetic beings, right? Yeah. You can feel if somebody wants something from you, especially when you're desperate. And I've been there before, especially in the gym. You've seen the lows.
Sure.
From what I've been through in the gym. And if you're coming through with that, that's because you want something from somebody.
Yeah.
People feel that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're genuinely care about somebody and you're not attached to the result, right? That's when I think you can make the most impact.
Yeah.
Which is so cool because it's genuine and it's and you're actually caring. You're not just reaching out because, again, like you said, oh, hey, I want something. It's just like, no, man, like, hey, let's have a conversation about your kids, you know, being, you know, running around, he's this big and all that. Let's
just go grab a beer and catch up. Let's go grab a coffee, whatever it is, right? Totally. Like that's just it, right? And, you know, old adage, sales is service, service is sales, but it all comes down to relationships, and the relationship has to be real. If it's a superficial relationship, it's never going to last long term. It just won't. Yeah. It's built on fragility. Like it just it can't survive. It's built on that one thing.
Yeah. So what were some other things, like you said, you know, just reaching out to people, what were a couple other things that you started doing because you realized that your strength was building relationships? So what were some like little daily things you might have done to build those relationships? And with the clients that you did have, how did you nurture that into things that helped it? Being out of place of, you know, where your intentions were.
Yeah. So when you start working so much, you kind of get away from the things that you enjoy, right? Because you're just so focused on, okay, I'm doing this 10, 12 hours a day. By the time I get home, I'm just bagged, mentally or physically or both.
Yes.
Right? Depending on your employment situation, your business situation. I'm like, I need to get back into boxing. I need to get back into basketball.
Yeah.
I was always working out just because that was my break in the day, but I need to get back to just, who am I outside of this?
Yes, because you are not Luigi the realtor.
No.
You're Luigi.
I mean, I am, but that's not just me.
That's not your whole thing.
No.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So for me, it's like, okay, let me get back out there. Let me get those endorphins going.
Yeah.
And then with my friends, like, again, a lot of my business comes from referrals and from people that I know, right? Yeah. And to me, it's the most successful way to do your business because those relationships last.
Yes.
And so I'm like, let's go play. Let's go, you know, let's go grab a coffee. Let's just, you know, whatever that was. So for myself, it was things surrounding sports.
Yeah.
And things just surrounding people's families, like, you know, let's go to the barbecue. Let's go to the H2O center and go to the pool, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. And then I started focusing in on, so Dino started the Okanagan College basketball program back in 2017, I think it was. It's been a while now. And so just volunteering for that and fundraising and giving back to the game that helped me, you know, stay on a straightened path and helping, you know, these kids maybe pay for a little bit of university that way through sponsorships
Cool.
of athletes there. So every year I've been sponsoring one male and one female athlete,
Awesome.
which is $1,500 a player.
That's awesome.
Because it is just an entirely self-funded program. We don't get money from the college and stuff, so we have to fundraise. I think it's like $200,000 a year to make the programs run.
Good for you. That's
so
awesome.
just getting back into that and then seeing their enjoyment and just really getting myself back to a mental state where I'm like, okay, I can let all the stress go.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, people pick up on energies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really that like holistic type or anything like that. That's not my personality, but success breeds success, failure breeds failure, stress breeds stress, happiness breeds happiness. Like, it just, you attract what you are.
Yes.
And so for me, I got back to, okay, this is me.
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is why I have my friends. This is why I have the people around me. And I need to get back to that so that the other stuff can kind of happen. Right. So that was kind of the big one. And, getting more involved with people outside. Because when you are at a lower point with whatever it is, your natural tendency as a person is to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And you can do that, but you're going to have an easier time if you just surround yourself with people who, again, genuinely care about you.
Yeah. That's such good wisdom. And again, most people like to pull away. I know I've pulled away in the past, and, especially in an intimate relationship, especially my wife now, is my initial thing was, okay, no, I'm just going to deal with it myself. Yeah. And like you said, I'm going to pull in. No, I just need to be alone. And it's like, realize like that partner, especially, and true friends and real family, they want to be there. They want to help, or at least to hear you out and listen and be that shoulder. Right.
Yeah.
So my next question is, what were some things that you said your girlfriend at the time was helping you through that? What were some things that you guys did to make sure that you stayed connected and, you kept your family first? Because it's so easy to, on both sides, and one, when you're stressed and depressed and you're going through that tough time, to pull away. And then when you're really busy and you have that personality to drive, you're like, man, things are bumping, I gotta go. How do you find that balance? What are things that you do to try to stay connected?
Yeah. So, during that time, she was my girlfriend at the time. She's my wife now. She's a very patient person. She's quite the opposite of me. And I'm such like an old school guy internally where it's like, I have to be the provider. I have to do this. I have to do this just for myself. I don't put that on her or anything like that. It's like for my own pride and ego.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like, if I'm not successful, I'm a failure as a person. And, I wanted her to not have to worry about paying bills and doing all that stuff. And, that's my responsibility.
Yeah. I get that.
And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And so, at first she left me alone because that's what I was asking for, and she respected that. And then we just kind of had that conversation where it's, not everything is on you, and you don't need to take that on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's saying, I'm more than capable of floating us for a while.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest with you, when she said that, I felt like a loser. Like, I did.
Yeah.
But again, coming back to suck up your pride, suck up your ego.
Yeah.
A relationship is a partnership. It's not anything like that. And I wasn't saying I have to take care of it or, I'm the provider or anything like that from like a macho ego. That's not it is like a very chauvinistic.
Yes.
That's not what it is.
It's internal.
And like my parents worked very hard when they were young. And I remember my dad, he worked a labor job for the city. And by the time he would get home, he's passed out on the couch, 3:30 till 5, taking a nap because he's working early in the morning, whatever those hours were.
Yeah. And
then my mom didn't get home from work until about 5. So from 3:30 till 5, it's just, me and my brother watching TV. And as I got older, I realized that like my parents were working that hard, not for themselves, but for us. And,
Yeah.
If they're working that hard, I should be working that hard, and it's my job to work this hard, and it's me. I need to do this. I have to do this. If I'm going to be a man, this is on me to do this.
Right.
Not the case. It just isn't, right?
Yeah.
And so we stayed connected. She was just very supportive.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually when it turned around, it just made the relationship stronger.
Yeah, of course.
I also matured as time
Yeah.
passed as well, right? There's a big difference from when you're 25 to 30
Yeah.
to 35. Like it's an entirely different.
I feel like every year you're a new person.
Your priorities change.
Yeah,
or at least I think they should.
Yeah. But you
But-
know what? It's such a good thing that you did that, and because like you said, you're opening up, right? And that's what I found, especially in women and what I've experienced and people that I know in relationships. It's like they want you to come to them, and men were like, okay, well, I don't want to talk about that. It's on me. And women, that's all they want. And then it's like, as soon as you realize, like, hey, one, it's a safe place, you can trust them.
Yeah.
And two, when you do that, well, then your relationship's so much stronger. It doesn't mean, and what I realized too is it didn't mean that I'm not saying now you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is just what I'm going through. And I'm presenting this. For me, it was like presenting this, hey, here's this thing I'm going through. And they go, oh, yeah, no, I get that. And then you kind of share the burden, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, wow, I can actually, and then it's reciprocated, right? And you come stronger together.
Yeah, my fear during that time was I didn't want to feel lesser. Like I just didn't feel like I wasn't up to standard or up to snuff or anything like that. So again, calling myself out on my own BS.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And once I was able to accept that, it kind of alleviated some of the stress and the pressure that was completely self-induced.
That's
right?
the crazy part.
All this stuff
Yeah.
was my fault.
Yeah.
It was my own doing. It was my own self-demise.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that while you're in it. No. But then as time passes, you look back, it's like, man, you were an idiot. Yeah. You were just being such an idiot.
But that's the best part about it. I've said this before. It's like as soon as you realize like you created the scenario.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I created this scenario.
Yeah.
Means I can create.
Yeah.
Means that I can create a different scenario.
Yeah.
And you did that by just having that recognition of like, oh right, this is me.
Yeah.
Cool. So it sucks because you have to swallow your pride because you're like, oh my God, how did I let this happen?
Yeah.
I've been there so many times, just don't want to even count. But every time you do it, you realize like, right, okay, that means the opposite is true. That means that I can change the scenario and make it the opposite.
Yeah.
Because I created it.
Yeah.
Right. So what
just taking accountability for yourself, right?
Like, yes. And that's such a tough one.
Yep.
Because, really, I mean, I find especially with men, a lot of them, we don't, I don't know, something, it's easier to point the blame, right? But then again, wherever you point the blame, that's where you're pointing the power.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start taking ownership, that's more power for you.
Yeah.
And it makes you a better person.
You can't change what you don't recognize.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So things obviously gotten better.
Yes.
And things are moving now. So maybe let's talk a little bit about, what do you do now with relationships and how do you approach these, customer or these clients of yours, how do you approach that with that intent of, like you said, like, I just want to make, helping their lives. Yeah. How do you navigate that?
The biggest thing is, I've obviously gained a lot more knowledge since my first year in it. And a lot of that came from just working 15 feet away from somebody who's been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
I never changed my approach with my clientele or my friends or anything like that. It was, again, sticking to the basics. Mm-hmm. It's about the relationship. Mm-hmm. What would I do if this was me in their shoes? How would I approach this? How would I do this? Right? So it's practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's their decision on what move they want to make. Here's my advice. Here's what I would do if I were you. This is why. You can agree. You can disagree. If you disagree, I listen to you. That's my job. I take my direction from you.
Yeah.
I just offer my expertise and my knowledge, and the rest is up to you. Because at the end of the day, in my industry, I leave. Your home inspector leaves.
Yeah.
The lender leaves.
Yeah.
You're the one who has to live here.
Yeah.
Or you're the one who has to be happy with selling your home.
Yeah.
And the decision that you make.
It's the biggest transaction most people will make. So you gotta feel good about it.
Right? So this is what I would do and this is why.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do that, okay. No problem. We'll do what you want to do.
Totally.
But it's more, I approach it with, I'm not after this transaction, I'm after the one after it. And how you get there is by making them want to work with you again.
Yeah.
Right? So, in my opinion, through making them feel like they're genuinely cared for.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts me. If a client leaves, it hurts me personally. It shouldn't. Because I was like, it's just business. But I invest a lot of myself in them.
Yeah.
Because it is a very personal thing with real estate. This is your home, this is your family, this is your investment, this is your retirement, this is whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm there with you fighting the same fight with you.
So how do you then show your clients that you're there? How do you show them that you're fighting? Like what are some like little, or maybe a couple of examples of little extra things you might have done to do that, to go above and beyond? Because there's a lot of realtors that it's like, I know a buddy of mine, he's bought a few, and the realtor wouldn't even show up on half the day. He works out of town, he wouldn't even show up to look at some houses because he's only here for a week. So again, this is there's a range of realtors, obviously some amazing ones, there's some bad ones. So what are some things that you do that are just that little extra step?
First, it comes down to constant and effective communication. Has to be. They need to know what's going on. You need to be timely in your communication as well. There's nothing worse than when you're waiting on something and it takes a full day or it takes a half a day. I drive myself crazy. If I let 2 hours pass without getting back to someone, I can't do it. Right? Even if I don't know the answer. Hey, not sure. Give me a little bit of time. Because if I'm communicating with them, they feel prioritized because they are. They are absolutely a priority. And I have a spouse who understands that my work is not 9 to 5. And this whole misconception of realtors, you have a flexible schedule. Yes, but your schedule is flexible based around other people. You're not in control of your own schedule. Things pop up and you need to be adaptable. Adaptable is a much better word for it. And so, you want to see this house? Let's go. I'll drop what I'm doing. We can go as long as so-and-so will let us in the house, right? The seller can accommodate or whatever it is, then we'll do it, right? Something goes wrong with the house, we need to be able to deal with it. I had a situation, I think it was 2 summers ago now. It's so weird post-COVID life. I can't put a timeline on anything. But my clients were supposed to take possession of a home, and 2 days before the possession of their home, the movers from that house used the facilities in the home, flooded the bathroom, and it seeped through the drywall into the basement, and it was this whole potential debacle. So luckily, they let me know what was going on, and I spent the better part of the next 6 hours. Okay, we need to get a restoration guy in there. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. Stuff happens. I need to explain to my clients that this was a very freak thing. We're not going to panic about what you're going to do in the interim. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're just going to, again, focus on those micro steps. In order to achieve the end result of getting in there and getting this settled. And 1, here's an expectation. 2, let's do this step. 3, let's do this step. 4, let's do this step. And then we'll eventually get you there, right? This happened on my wife's birthday while I was out for dinner with her.
It's literally a shitstorm day.
So yes. So I am sitting in Rod's restaurant downtown, and this is going on. I just apologize to my wife. I'm like, I am so sorry. Here's the situation. Like, my phone's going to be ringing off the hook in the middle of our dinner for the next 2 hours.
Wow.
And she understood. I had to make it up to her after, don't get me wrong. But it was just kind of one of those things like, this has to take priority. I'm sorry. Like, this is somebody else's house and their family, and they're moving, they're a blended family moving in, and they have kids, and I got to deal with this. It is what I have to deal with it. And I have to deal with it now. And I'm like, I know it's my wife's birthday, but this is very important.
Totally. And it's tough because, like I said before, it's the biggest transaction you're making. And you're getting somebody a home. right? It's different than a rental. It's different than a place that they're going to stay for a few weeks or whatever, a month or year. Like this is like, they want to call this home. So, you know, it's a stressful time already.
Yeah.
Try to make that as smooth as possible, especially when
bank documents signing, lawyer documents signing, booking movers, booking cleaners, all this sort of stuff. While you're all trying to work your regular day jobs, it's a lot going on, and it can be a tense time for the people involved.
Totally.
Right.
So you mentioned, you kind of talked about it a bit before. I want to just touch on it. Is there any other habits? So for example, you said you got back to playing basketball. You got back to working out. And because this is, you know, there is some stress, there's a lot of stress involved with this job. Again, because the size of these transactions, especially in our area, a $500,000 home isn't even a thing anymore.
Nope.
They're condo, right? So $1 million plus transactions, you know, and that's other people's money.
Yeah.
Right? That's, you know, and you have to take that serious.
Yeah.
Which does come with a bit of, you know, given stress. So what are some things you do? You know, you said you're playing basketball now, you're working out. What are some other things you might do during your day to prep you mentally and emotionally for this stuff and to decompress from these things?
Well, now I've been at a point for a while where nothing really surprises me in real estate anymore. That
helps.
You kind of let it roll off your shoulders and be like, okay, this isn't as big of a deal as you may think, right? This is, we can work around this, we can deal with this, we can deal with this, right? So I'm at a point now where I have a lot of tools and knowledge at my disposal where, okay, there is a solution to this.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure my people aren't freaking out.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I freak out, they're going to freak out.
Yeah.
And just being on top of the situation, right? So some things that I do to deal with that is, getting back to the basics again and just having those, explaining those things to those guys in a manner that, puts them at ease.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a situation that's going on that could be serious or whatever, right? It's like when you have a home inspection, do you want your inspector to point it out, make it sound like the house is blowing up and it's still in the fear of God in you, for lack of a better term? Or, hey, this may be potentially an issue, you need to investigate this, here's the solution, it may cost us whatever that is, right?
Right, you're laying on the path for them.
Yeah, right? Like, you don't want it to be like, oh my God, here's a big red X and run for the hills and...
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So for handling everything, there's bigger things in life. There's always more important things in life. And just putting things into perspective. Yeah. Everything is manageable. Everything material.
Yes.
Like a house or anything like that. It's manageable. You can overcome certain things. You can deal with things. You can adjust. You can adapt. You can call an audible on stuff.
Yeah.
As long as you have your health and your family support and everything around you, material things aren't as important as people think they are sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was recently evacuated
for
a week, and I have a 14-month-old son, and it happened very quickly when the fire jumped to the other side of the lake. And we were out of the house within half hour. This is at nighttime.
Yeah, jeez.
And while we didn't panic, because my wife's family's from 100 miles, so unfortunately, they've been evacuated a couple times. This is nothing new to her. We just got out, but I had a huge pit in my stomach. Not because I was afraid of my house burning down, the structure itself or anything like that. I had a pit in my stomach that I wasn't going to be able to provide stability for my kid and my wife and the home and where are we going to live. And the fire got very close.
Yeah.
And there was a point where we both kind of looked at each other and accepted, okay, our house is no longer going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
What's our backup plan?
Yeah.
Like, I could freak out and break down and cry and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I need to remove the emotion from it.
Right now,
Focus on steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
What's our backup plan? Now, we got lucky that our house was still standing. The fire got 100 yards from my house.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who didn't get as lucky, right? So it feels like half my job now, which I'm more than willing to do, is helping those people find accommodation.
Yeah.
Because their lives didn't get that right side of the coin flip.
Totally. And these are clients that you've helped get into homes.
They're clients that I've helped. They're friends of clients that I've helped that I haven't even met.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I sympathize with the situation because I remember that
you've been
that pit in my stomach, that uneasiness, just here to here met up, and it just I won't forget that feeling for quite a while. So I was lucky enough to make it on the right side of the coin. I need to help the people that weren't as lucky.
Totally, and that goes back to like what you said before, as being part of what you're doing differently now is caring about people. The transactions, all that it will come when it comes, but putting a focus on people. Yeah. So to kind of move forward now and to maybe just let yourself brag about it, because you have your own company now. I mean, heck, it's on your hats. You have your own company now, so things have gone well and things are doing well. Yeah. So what kind of stuff is it, if you were to look at what you were doing in your first month compared to what you're doing now in terms of like transactions, what does that look like and what kind of growth have you seen? And then when at the last, I want to go over some wisdom that you might have for other people in that.
For sure. So my business has obviously grown a lot since I first started. I wanted to find that balance. I don't want to be the top producing realtor in Kelowna because if you're pushing that much volume, your quality of care, it's just not possible. To have that level of care, because it's just, you almost in a sense turn into a corporation where it's now serving 256, now it's serving 257. There's not that personal touch, and that's me not staying true to who I am.
I love that.
You can do enough business in this town with the people that come to you and that you seek out to live a comfortable lifestyle, to be successful in business, but to also, this is the most important part, making sure that the people that you're working with feel cared for and that you value them, that they're a priority. People want to be prioritized, and if they're dropping that much money, they should be. Right? It's not always the case, unfortunately, sometimes that I've seen, but I can't sleep at night if I feel like I'm blowing somebody off who's dropping that amount of money and putting their trust in you to be able to take care of their best interests. So again, came down to why I worked with who I worked with. He figured out that balance. Right. And I want to perform at a high level because that's just my personality. I'm very self-competitive.
I love that. Without
sacrificing that standard level of care that I want to hold myself accountable to for other people. So the business has been great. I've taken it over about 2.5 years ago, I want to say. And it was just kind of one of those things where, things are just steadily, naturally growing. Always looking for new business. If you're let me know. But I don't want to do 100 deals a year. That's too many. Like it's too much.
Like you said, because you can't, and I think that was the coolest thing, is because you can't stay true to who you are, and have that that personal side to it, and I think that's missing in business. That's missing in a lot of things. That connection, that true human connection, not that it's some email and check a box here and there's your transactions done, but that true human connection, not just in society, but especially because since COVID, right? We need that human connection. So that's really cool. So what would be some things then if you were, if this is a crowd of 100 brand new realtors and they're all getting into the game and they're, and especially if they're trying to find that balance, what would you be some wisdom, maybe a couple parts of wisdom you'd have for them?
So for new real estate agents, let's just say, work with somebody. You don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry, you don't.
Swallow your pride.
It is what it is, and it's a risky game, and other people are trusting you with their stuff. Don't take that for granted, and don't take advantage of that. You need to learn. So work with somebody who you trust that has been in it for a little bit. Doesn't have to be 25 years like me. I just lucked out that he had been in the industry for that long. But work with somebody so you can learn, so you can be a better version of yourself that way. And just in business in general, don't try and take on everything. right?
Yeah.
Focus on steady growth, just a little bit of improvement every day, or every week, or every month, or whatever that timeline is for yourself. Don't expect that you're going to be great right away.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be. You'll get there eventually if you approach it the right way.
Totally.
And let things focus on your little things that you need to do for yourself.
Yes.
And eventually you'll get to that end goal. But don't try and get there in 30 seconds, because it's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's not going to last.
Right.
It's not sustainable.
Totally. And that, setting that expectations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think what you said is so big. And I think the cool part about that is it's not, you could apply that wisdom to any business.
Yeah.
That isn't business for realtors. That's business for everybody. Yeah. You focus on relationships. I mean, the last podcast it was social media.
Yeah.
And she's doing amazing now. And I'm like, I'm going like, oh, isn't social media just sitting there on your phone and messaging people? And she's like, no. It's the bridge between, a screen and a real life conversation. So her wisdom was go have those real life conversations. And I'm like, you're a social media person. Like, what are you talking about? No. I'm like, okay. Yeah. There's a theme here. Like, you have to have real life conversations, because that's how you build that connection.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess, who is there anybody that you want to thank? Because again, now you have this balance, which I actually think is more amazing than even being successful, in my opinion. Because again, you have seen those people that are success, that have just driven so hard to just push. But like you've said, unfortunately, the relationships suffer.
Yeah.
Their families might suffer.
Yeah.
They might not have a life. They might not have time to sit and do a podcast. Might not have time to share some wisdom. So, who would you like to thank that? Do you think it's been a big, crucial part in getting you here and just finding that balance in your life?
Well, first, my wife, for understanding what the job is, because it's a lot. Like, it's just all over the place. There's, nights where I'm driving up to, Southeast Kelowna to go meet somebody at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, because you're under a time crunch, whatever it is, right? Yeah. You got to go when you got to go.
Yeah.
But she understands that. And I mean, we've been together for the better part of, 12, 13 years now, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so she's very understanding of what I do.
Yeah.
Second, obviously, to Dino for taking me on and taking on a kid who
wouldn't say no.
Showed up to his office and refused to leave.
Some might call it stalking. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And my clientele as well. Like they're the biggest one. Thank you for continuing to trust in me, and for sending your people to me because you feel cared for and everything like that. So without clients, I'm not doing anything.
Totally.
Without Dino, I'm not surviving. Without my wife, I'm not getting into the industry.
Yeah.
I don't need accolades.
Yeah.
I've had them before in the past from our former spot, and even in real estate, we have our awards and everything, and I've been lucky enough to, we've been the top team at my brokerage for the last 2 years.
Cool.
So since I've taken it over, I've been one of the top 10 real estate agents at my brokerage personally for the last, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good.
Yeah.
But for me, I can't be who I am without my support network around me. And it's okay to admit that it's other people that make you successful, and that you need other people to get you to a level, right?
Yeah.
So
that's such good wisdom, because again, I'm that, at least previously I was that person that was like, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoulder it all on, bring it all on. And so I guarantee there's other people out there that are thinking the same thing, but again, I think it's recognizing that, like, you have your strengths, let them shine.
Yeah.
But these other people fill in those weaknesses that you already mentioned. We all have.
Yep.
And I think the sooner we realize that, the sooner you can start moving forward in whatever direction you want to go faster, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool.
I mean, Kelowna's such a, it's grown a lot, but it's still such a small town, right?
Yeah.
And you need those networks and those people around you to be able to be successful in your personal and your professional life, right? Like it's, we're all we all rely on each other in some fashion or another, right?
Yeah.
So I think for people to recognize that it's not all like not me.
Yes.
It's we is a very eye-opening thing to kind of admit to yourself. So
totally, and it's funny. That's actually a Tony Robbins quote.
Is it?
It is. It's actually it was really good. But he says the same thing. It's like when, and it sounds like you kind of found that recipe or that balance is like, when life becomes about when your life is tough, when it's about me, when it becomes about we, that's where true happiness lies, and that's the purpose of life. Is about serving others and helping others, and sounds like you're building a lot of trust with your clients, which is something I'm super passionate about, because if you have trust, it's like all these other things are just easy. Your clients trust you. Hey man, I have a plan. Cool. They already trust you, and you're coming in with a plan. It's like, oh, well, he's got my back. Yeah. Right. And then they can not, even though they're already going to be a little stressed, you can make that transition a lot easier. So that's super cool, man. I actually have a gift for you for being on the show. I'm not sure what size of head you are, but whichever size the ones is large. Baby. Yeah, I think you're big. You got a big melon.
It fluctuates. It should fit though.
Perfect. There you go. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
We hug on the show.
Oh, my God.
Awesome. So thanks again for listening to this episode. If you haven't yet, I'm going to ask you just one thing. Please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying these episodes, or if there's something you would like to see, you can always message me about something that you're wanting to learn about, or some people that you'd like to hear from. If you haven't, share with a friend. I always encourage you to share knowledge with friends, because that makes you learn more and it helps them too. And go ahead and like it if you haven't already. So thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.